Hi, welcome to another episode of Cash and Sass. Okay, listen, if you're multitasking right now, I need you to pause, okay? Because today's episode is about to turn your whole idea of money, power, and pleasure upside down. And I promise I'm going to use this word, it's going to be delicious. And I'm so excited because we're talking about wealth through the lens of erotic energy, embodiment, and unapologetic receiving. Because honestly, here's the truth. You can't think your way into abundance. You've got to feel your way into it. And my guest today is Ava. And Ava, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name. So please tell me if I do it injustice. Pickle?
Pikul.
Pikul. Oh, see, I was like, so Ava Pikul, an embodied sex and intimacy guide, former erotic dancer, and bold as hell advocate for women being deeply seen, deeply satisfied, and I'm going to say it, fully fucking alive. So, look, if you've been undercharging, overgiving, or hiding behind strategy because receiving still feels unsafe, this is your wake up call. Okay. So, we're gonna let's go. I'm so excited. And we're just going to dive in. Ava, one of the things that you and I were talking about right before we went and I hit the record is the erotic currency of wealth, and you call it erotic currency. So I want to know, how would you explain the connection between sex and money to someone who's hearing this for the very first time?
It's at the very core of the belief systems that we hold onto about ourselves. The same beliefs that we have around intimacy, pleasure, sex are going to be the same things that we experience around currency, wealth, money, abundance. I tend to break these down into three kind of categories for people to understand what I mean by that. And a lot of this really stems back from our childhood and the beliefs that we learned, right? We've all heard about this, but I'm a firm believer that we need to stop just healing the inner child part of us. And what we really need to do is allow her to stop running our sexual experiences and our intimate lives. So we've all heard these before, but the first one is the perfectionist. This is where we've learned that we have to get everything right in order to receive love, affection, and pleasure. So, as I say these, like it's going to relate back into how we perceive wealth and money, right?
Yeah,
If we're
because perfectionists, we got to be perfect at everything that we
Yeah,
do in order for it to work. Yeah.
yeah. And so, oftentimes, perfectionists, we hold on to shame and guilt. Sometimes women who really carry this will feel the shame and guilt after a sexual experience, even if it's with their husbands that they've been married to for a decade. And they have a difficult time receiving pleasure. So, in the same way of us receiving currency in any form, it's going to lead us into dissociation and disconnection. So, that's the first big one. The second one is the invisible one. And this is where we've really learned to stay hidden and unseen. So, a lot of the work I do is around women feeling seen, being seen. The number one thing that I hear from women, is, especially in long term relationships, is he just doesn't see me. But they don't really know what that means and what it takes, AKA vulnerability, in order to truly be seen by another person that we love. So, this is where in childhood we learn to stay hidden and unseen because our family members maybe took up all the space and attention. So, maybe that could have been a sibling or a parent who had addiction qualities and
Mm-hmm.
took up all the attention and the space all the time. So, it wasn't safe to be seen. And then, in order to avoid that pain, we find it really difficult to actually connect sexually in our adult lives. And then we push away the attention or the sexual advancements or the intimacy that we want. And I've also seen that this ends up leading to self sabotage behaviors in women, avoidance for women. And it often can lead to this physical manifestation of numbness and pain during intimacy as well. That's the invisible one. And then the third one that we have is the peacemaker. So these are women who learn to keep the peace by taking on responsibilities of other family members.
Mm-hmm.
And so in adulthood, we become the people pleaser in order to prevent unwanted anger or frustration. And we find it really difficult to know what we want and how to ask for it, especially in the bedroom or in our intimate relationships. So we second guess the sexual experiences. We worry about what our partner's pleasure more than our own. And this can develop into a lot of anxiety around intimacy. So those are
Yeah,
like
but it
the
can
three.
also
Yeah,
right, and the people pleaser, just another way that it correlates, right? It's like if you have this, then in your bedroom or with your person, your spouse or your lover or whatever, it's not gonna be the only place in your
that's
intimate
right.
relationship that you're gonna have the people pleasing because how often do us entrepreneurs
Mm,
find that we're people pleasing? Like, we're taking clients on that we wouldn't wanna normally take, or we're doing the work that we wouldn't wanna do. We're
that's right.
even in corporations, right? If we're an employee and someone says, "You've got time to do this," instead of saying, "No, I don't," right? We'll say, "Sure," and we just keep piling on more and more and more. I know I did that in corporate world.
Hmm.
And I did it also when I first started my business, and you and I were in the same mastermind, and our mentor even said something. It's like we're people pleasers. We're because we're givers. So because we're naturally givers, we end up not realizing that we're doing the people pleasing. And then if we all of a sudden, and sometimes we're going to be both, right? I don't know if it's the same. And can you have more than one? And that I
Yeah.
would think you could because I could see myself in all three of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I
I'm
think
like,
it's about
oh, yeah.
like really seeing which one's running the show in any given point in time because they're all kind of scapegoats. And they're all so subtle. We don't really realize
Yeah,
that's what's really running the show until issues start to pop up and we keep going around in circles, right? Inside of what it is that we are really desiring inside of intimacy or pleasure or sexual experiences. And how that plays out outside of the bedroom is always mirrored. Always, always, always.
always.
Yeah.
I've said it time and time again. I mean, it's the reason why I created the 5 wealth codes, it may not say in the relationship, but when you have the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, the physical, and the financial, those are gonna be in the bedroom too, right? And they all correlate
Yeah.
to how we're looking at money or how we're making money and having those boundaries, right? And so, boundaries is gonna be part of the with the spiritual, and those other wealth codes. My question is, why do you think so many successful women are still starving for pleasure and they're simultaneously blocked around money?
Mm.
Because I
Well,
see it all the time.
my first gut reaction to that question is because we live in a man's world. And I think that many of us, right, we see online, right, and we can see things around, okay, this is what femininity is, and women are secular. And I think that most women understand that intellectually, but then they go and burn themselves out or beat themselves up and feel ashamed when they're not showing up the same way every single day at any given point. And so I think that for a big piece here, and this, again, it's so subtle, but there's a big theme around women needing to really accept themselves. And I tend to, when I get in this rut myself, because I would categorize myself as very high achieving, I want to get things done, I can
Mhm.
push myself really hard. But
I can
when
too.
things start to not feel like they're going in the direction that I would expect, and I keep pushing, that is the moment that I actually have taught myself to stop. And it feels sometimes like the world is going to end because it feels like it's, the total opposite of what we're conditioned to continue to
Conditioned to
do.
do.
But I will stop everything until something shifts. So that means I'll return back to my embodiment practice. I will make space to do the things that I need to do to come back home to myself, to my body. And then something always shifts. Without a doubt, I'll get a text from a client or whatever that I've been waiting on, and something will shift as soon as I do that. So when we talk about the erotic currency part of this, it is about the feeling. It is about that moment that you can take yourself out of the grasping the need for a specific outcome, the expectations, and pull back and connect with yourself anyway. And I think for a lot of women, they wait, they think, oh, once I have this, or once my relationship is like that, then I'll have space to explore this. Then I'll have the space to prioritize my pleasure. And 1,000% that never happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm gonna say I am still learning and practicing that part of not like, of stopping, whatever it is I'm doing and come back to, like, being embodied, right? Because my old motto is just, keep pushing through because sometimes it's just gonna get hard, and learning that it doesn't have to be hard, right? It
Yeah,
is a key, and and I love the way that you say you just stopped. But for a lot of us, that's really difficult
it's
to
very
to
different. Yeah.
condition, or not, I won't say condition, but to train us to do, is to say, "It's okay, just stop and wait until it comes back to feeling right," because it doesn't have to keep being hard. If it's feeling hard and feeling is just gut wren there something's off, stop until you figure out, and I don't mean stop and go sit on the couch and do nothing.
No,
That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. But something is off, and so we need to figure out, what it is, especially when you're in the business world or when you're doing anything. What does it actually mean to treat money like a lover? Which, because
oh,
when I tell people to treat money like your dance partner and that you're in a relationship, the eyes that I get sometimes. So now we're gonna go deeper, and we're gonna say, treat money like a lover. I mean, because you said that, you said you've had money all over your naked body, and you did, you said it. So I wanna know that story and the energetic shift behind it. We're going, okay? But, I mean, and honestly, what does it mean to do that?
well, at that time, yeah, I was an erotic dancer for a short period of time. And, I think that what helped me shift around the money piece was, money is also allowed to be something that is, like we're saying, like a lover, but it's also sexy. It's magnetic, right? And
I say money is sexy. I say it all
similar
the
to
time.
our similar to our sexual energy, it's
Right.
something that we can cultivate more of, right? So now I'm talking more about energetics. But if we look at the what sexual energy really is, it's vital energy. That's all. It's not this eh, at the very core and essence of it, it's not this big fluffy, you know what I mean, thing. It's vital energy and we can cultivate more of it. So
Mhm.
for a lot of women, when they're just overall disconnected from their pelvis in general and living from the waist up, that they're not really cultivating sexual energy, but which is magnetic energy, but it doesn't have anywhere to go. It's not moving through the body. And so what I mean by that is similar to like money being attracted to this sort of magnetism that women inherently have,
Mhm.
that we can cultivate more of it. And so from that place, right, of being an erotic dancer for a short period of time, I think the main part was when I felt good, I always made more money. And so that can be kind of a difficult thing to overcome in our minds.
Mhm.
Because like I said, it's still hard. Like, it's not that I'm not an advocate for hard work. I do hard things every single day, right? We all do, especially when we're building businesses.
Yeah, but it can
But
be
it's about
fun
the
too. I mean,
feeling. It's about
it
the feeling. So when I was
right.
dancing on stage for 8 hours, it was hard. It was hard work. Okay. My legs hurt. I was sweating, right? It was work. It's not like I just stood there and did nothing, right?
Right,
But
right,
I think
right.
that internally it was the feeling that I had around enjoying it to some degree, enjoying the experience, enjoying my own body, enjoying the power that I had in that moment. Now, erotic dancing obviously didn't really fit the direction that I was going to go in my life forever, but I learned a lot of things in those experiences in that short period of time. And one of them being around money and I remember the largest cash day that I had was maybe 6 hours, and I made 3K in that one night. That wasn't every single night, but that was the most money I've ever held in my hands in one given point, just from one evening. And so, yes, there was a certain amount of power or even ego there, but I knew that there was a part of me that evening that felt like I was in a complete flow state. And I knew that was magnetic. And so, that's the example that I have for you when it comes to having money all over my naked body. But there's a certain quality of magnetism
Well, I mean,
there.
it'd be in the same sense of, the
Yeah.
pictures of money like raining down on you, which, like rains, money's just coming down on you. Or like, I can't even think of her name right now, but she's in a tub full of cash. She's the money goddess and she's in a tub full of cash. I think it's embodying that we're worthy and that we're worthy of earning money. We're worthy of it being pleasurable and having fun. And, like Armin, it doesn't have to we're not saying you don't work hard, but we're saying it doesn't have to be hard. Like you can work hard and it be fun and it not be resentful, right? It's just something you hate doing. When it gets to that point or you feel like, oh, I don't want to be with, if you taking on a client, you feel this gut of every time you have a call with them. Okay, there's a sign that they're not aligned. The something's out of alignment. And I talk about alignment all the time with my wealth codes. And that's in sense what you're talking about. And a lot of times, though, what you're saying with the alignment, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if we're not in alignment with our sensuality, right, and having the feeling, it's also going to carry over both ways, right? I mean, it's going to go from work or your business to the bedroom and from the bedroom to the because our emotions, we carry them. We don't leave them. We don't know how to leave them. We don't leave them. We keep them with us. So it correlates back and forth. And I just think that if we could learn to treat money like a relationship, like a lover, right? And give it the respect of how we want to be respected as well, we would be more open to seeing how it's energy and what good can come from
You
having
would stop
the cash.
clinging to it. You would stop
Yes.
clinging to and grasping. Like going back to that
If
moment that I
flowing
just,
back and forth, it's gonna flow in and out, and you wouldn't be grasping, that's the word.
right. And the same thing happens in our relationships usually. We expect
Mhm.
the person to be a certain way, and when they're not, it's their fault. And so
Yep.
women do this a lot where they'll end up blaming their partners or whatever. I'm not saying they're not, that they're perfect,
Right, right,
but I
right.
see this a lot. And I think that in the same conversation around money, it's about taking ownership and responsibility of what
Of
you
our own
desire, what
shit.
you can control. What the
Right.
only thing that you can control is the way that you feel and the steps that you take, right?
Mhm.
And so, even going back to that scene that we just spoke about in the strip club, like it wasn't about the money in that moment. It wasn't about what I could get. It was about the feeling. And it might sound weird because of the context, but I was of service in that way. Many of us are, right, in our businesses, being of service, something that we're passionate about. And so that is the key thing. And when it comes to alignment, right, we need to be able to shift what that looks like without clinging to the outcome. And
Mhm.
so, much like for me, I very relatively quickly moved out of that space of the club because it wasn't in alignment, right? That doesn't mean that things immediately went to better. In fact, they did not.
Right, right. Well,
I
you and
remember,
I talked about this before we started here. Like,
right.
you and I both said that we've shifted. Our business has shifted. I'm going in a much expansive direction, and we both feel very aligned. Does that mean that cash is flowing in,
Right.
without us blinking out? No, and we're also not grasping. We know we're in alignment, so we know that we're in the direction we're supposed to, which means cash is the money's going to come, right? It's because we're in the service and we're doing what we know in our hearts we're supposed to be doing. So we know that it's going to follow. Will we have to tweak some things maybe along the way? Absolutely. And I talk about that all the time. And you have to be, we keep saying that word, you have to be in alignment. You have to be.
I think that, even going back to in our intimate lives, it's very much
Mhm.
the same. There's a lot of women that will stay exactly where they're at when it comes to the intimacy that, when it comes to intimacy, and they're not really taking those steps to ask for, to understand what it is that they want out of their intimate lives. And it's the same thing with currency, it's the same thing with wealth and money. And so, like you're saying, it takes a certain amount of courage to step
Yeah, I was gonna
into that
say.
alignment, right? There is a certain amount of courage that you need to step into that, because that courage is going to bring vulnerability. Vulnerability is the birthplace of intimacy. So when we want intimacy, whether in a sexual sense, an emotional sense, or a financial sense, right? It's
Right.
all intimacy. It's all creating an aligned connection and within yourself. And it takes getting a little bit uncomfortable in order to come into that alignment every single time. So the quicker you can shift with that is the quicker that the alignment will start to bring you onto the correct path when it comes to, right, intimacy as a whole. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think the reason why, so especially with women, why we have such a difficult, I won't say hard, say difficult time, or why we might shy away from
that's right.
having that courage to say what we want, as when it comes to intimacy, and with wealth and our business, right? What we want is because society has taught us that we're, come on now, sex and those things and pleasure and what we want, we're not supposed to talk about. I mean, I grew up in the day, you didn't talk about sex and money or mental health, okay? You just didn't talk about it. You weren't supposed to. And I think that for a lot of women, especially, you want me to actually say what feels good and say what I want and say, no, I don't. You so I'm saying, I mean, even if it's with your spouse, and you've been married for 20 years, if there's something that you, like she's saying, you've just been doing or accepting because you're just there, it's okay to actually say what you want, right?
Can I
And it's
go a
the
little
same thing in
deeper
our
there?
business. Yeah. Yes, please.
Because what's so, like you're saying, that's true, but without us understanding what's actually running the show there, it's just like saying
Right.
it is one thing. What's actually underneath that is the fear of rejection or the fear
Mhm.
of abandonment. So, well, those
Absolutely.
are some of the core pieces that I work with women, because without shifting that subconscious behavior, then it's like, sure, we can talk about, okay, prioritize pleasure and right, this all sounds great, but unless you're really feeling it, and this is the embodiment piece that we're talking about, right? Is like really feeling it in your bones. It's like it's not going to quite stick. So it's like that is the core piece, is this fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment that keeps us going around in circles, because as soon as we get to that moment where something isn't sitting quite right for us, and the knee jerk reaction is to either shut down and stay quiet, is to get angry and upset. That still doesn't solve the problem, or whatever the reaction might be. It's not at the very core of it. It's really that belief that is driving the show. And that
Mhm.
goes, obviously, like you're saying, for the both of these
Yeah, I was
areas.
gonna say, I mean, it's a fear of rejection and fear of abandonment to a sense, but fear of losing it all when it comes
Yeah,
to your business. It's still, we can say, okay, and talk about managing it differently and doing it differently, and subconsciously underneath that layer, if it still feels off, it's not gonna work. We have to go deeper, just like you were saying. You have to be able to recognize where it's coming from and, okay, let's work on that shift as well.
that's right.
Yeah. And it makes even more sense now of how it correlates, the 2 together. You said that you had to face your resistance around visibility and responsibility when you started charging more in your business. What was the fear underneath that?
It was that. It was the fear of rejection and people not, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? I think that has been a big point in my life where I've had to really get over it, where I had always thought that I didn't quite fit in. And so if I'm running off of that blueprint, right, from my childhood being bullied or from experiencing sexual trauma as a young adult or, right, whatever it might be, some of the, even my work inside of this field in sexuality and intimacy is not really understood. So again, there's always people that have made assumption. So, I've held that belief for a long time around, well, people just don't understand. They're never going to really get me.
Mhm.
But I never realized up until that point, and as entrepreneurs, we know this is
I
the
was gonna say I've been
thing
thinking
I ever do.
the exact same thing as you on
Yeah,
mine too, so
right. So that has been the biggest piece for me because as you look at the tangibles like increasing pricing or saying something that you've never said before, even though you've thought it for so many years, or whatever it might be, there's that piece where it's like, well, people aren't going to get it. And so I really had to heal that, heal that part around being seen and not altering. And we do this so subtly, not altering what I want to say or how I want to do it based on how I've seen it somewhere else.
right.
And so the same thing happens in intimacy, right? You see, I don't know, a tip or a trick, or you see, okay, there's this toy or this product or whatever it might be. You might think that's going to solve the issue, solve the problem. But for both of these things and what we're discussing, that the solution is really connecting back to your body, specifically to your pelvis. And we can get
Mhm.
into that a little bit more, what I mean by that. But again, like as I come full circle, it's about really bringing that full body coherence because normally most of us are living from the waist up and we're missing out on this entire system that lives below the waist. And that is meant to be right? It's the base of the nervous system. It is our digestive system,
Well, it's part of us. I mean, it's our digestive system, it's the pleasure, it's the sensuality, it's
all of
part of
it.
us.
Yeah,
And it carries over into everything we do, including how we think and feel about money and how we go about, making money or taking clients or whatever. It all coincides. I mean, it all carries over. And I think it's important for us to talk about these things so that we realize, hey, look, there could be something else going on, right? That need to if I start feeling good in my body and having the sensuality about myself, then that's going to carry over to how I'm living and how I'm doing life and how I'm being in my business as well.
absolutely. And
Yeah, and I
and
think that's important.
that's energetically, right? But also when women are not experiencing intimacy that's actually pleasurable, it's like, well, that's not for me, right? The
Right,
women
right.
listening to this, they might be thinking to themselves, well, sex sucks anyways.
Yeah,
I've
well,
never,
hey,
what
look, I've been
intimacy,
one of the one.
right? So it's like, again, it's like, what does that actually mean? Well, I think that as a woman, really connecting to ourselves, especially in the places that feel not only vulnerable, but that we're disgusted by. Because I've had so many women doing this work with me. And even by looking at her vulva in a mirror, she's disgusted. So tell me how that shame she's holding on to herself about her body, one of the most intimate pleasure zone she has, right? She's disgusted by it. How is that going to translate into abundance and feeling good, right? It's not. So there's this big piece around shame for women in actually seeing themselves and touching themselves in a way that connects them to something that is greater than they've ever experienced before. This work can really, it's not just about the pleasure. It's about how she is letting go of the shame, letting go of these parts of herself that she feels is not important or incapable of pleasure, right? 'Cause it's all rooted in this
Right.
shame and starting to bring sensation back online again. Because once she starts to feel that sensation, once she can have an intimate experience without pain for the first time, that is the stuff that creates these miracles that I'm talking about. I recently had a woman inside of one of my programs, And inside of this program, I was leading this intimate group of women into self-touch practice. Cameras off, very, very safe space, safe environment. And I remember one of these women coming back on camera and she was like, oh my God, I never knew that I could touch myself and not experience pain. And so it's even these moments for a woman that seem so small, but are so impactful because in that moment she realized that her body is not broken.
Right.
So tell
Yeah.
me that a woman carrying around that for the past several decades,
Well, I mean, she's not only is she blocking that, she's blocking wealth, she's
that's
blocking all the
exactly right.
things. She's
Yeah,
blocking it, it's blocking everything, blocking the
that's right.
ability to even receive the wealth because your body isn't in alignment with itself.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
yeah, it's and a lot of times we just don't realize it. Now, I'm gonna ask, what's the difference? Well, one thing I'm gonna ask you this is that how do you help? Because we're going into that. So, how do you help women feel safe being seen in their power, their wealth, and their sexiness? Like owning it. You know what I mean?
So I work with three pillars. One is the subconscious, which most of our conversation was around today, the beliefs or behaviors we hold on to about our
Well,
bodies,
that's because you got to
pleasure.
deal with those first, right? I mean, we
That's
both
right.
agree on that.
Yeah, that's right. Which is the foundational piece inside of my women's community as well for that reason. The second piece is the somatic or nervous system part of this. So getting our body on board with our thoughts and behaviors, the ways that we want to feel, and connecting those dots because as I said, the nervous system, it roots down into the pelvis. So our pelvis is giving information to our brain is giving information to our pelvis. So if there's an overall disconnect through the vagus nerve and we're totally dysregulated, it's going to affect the way that we perceive the world around us. So that's a big piece is like connecting those two things. And then the third piece is the sexual piece. So there's actual skills around, okay, do I know my body to the best of my abilities? How do I enjoy pleasure, specifically sexual pleasure? And so then we go into the exploration of that. And then through that, some women experience, we have adhesions inside of the pelvis. And so then we go into anatomy, we go into the actual skill sets around sex, but that's really, we need to lay some of those foundational pieces first. But those are those three main pillars that we're working with for that full body coherence. It's everything from sexual education to leading her through her desires of her body in her unique way, to the subconscious thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that she's feeling and thinking about herself and how that relates to the world around her, to the way that she actually connects to her body and her nervous system as a whole. So we work with all of the pieces.
And I love that because I mean, it's you do it very similar to, how I do it with when it comes to the money. It's like we have to go deeper first.
Mhm.
And we could talk about this all day. And I've already decided you're coming back because I have like so many more questions we can ask. And of course, we're limited on time as always. Like, look, I can talk about stuff like this all day. Okay. Like
Yeah.
forever. And you and I we sat up all night one night and we talked about
Yeah.
all these things, right? Remember, we were in Tulum, Mexico. So look, this has been fire. There's so much more we could go into. And I have like a whole sheet of things that we can still talk about. So I know I'm going to have you back. And I know so many women listening are feeling something crack open. I mean, I guarantee it because I could even tell you know what, there's some things I might want to go dive in, dig into a little bit. You've got a free gift that helps women connect their sensual energy to abundance. Can you tell us? I think it's the magnetism meditation and where they can grab it.
Yeah, I have the magnetism meditation on my website. So you can go to diamondascension.org. I'm sure you'll have that
And
listed.
I'll put that in the show
Yeah.
notes. Yep, yep.
Another
And then
great,
you also have your community. Can you tell them about the community as well?
yeah, I'm so excited about the community space. So I recently opened up a women's community called Pulse. And this is where we meet anywhere from 2 to 4 times a month live. And every month we have a different theme that we focus on. So as you know, my work goes across all these different spectrums. So next month we'll be focusing on the pelvic floor. So activating the pelvic floor with certain exercises. This is going to be more around libido and breath control and these sorts of things. But every single month looks completely different. And what I really created this community for is women that want to continue an ongoing practice and to make pleasure sustainable for the rest of their lives, because I want to make it as tangible as possible for women to continue becoming their own best lovers and their own best healers. So we have a
I love
really
that.
amazing group of women inside of that community space. And you can join for 60 days free right now.
I will make sure that we have the link to get more information and sign up. It'll be in the show notes. And look, if this episode has lit you up and also made you a little uncomfortable, that's okay. That's good. Okay. That means something is shifting. You don't need to hustle harder or hide behind spreadsheets or hide behind anything. You need to align your money with your body, your energy, and I'm going to say it, your damn truth. Okay. That's what we do in the wealth alignment calls. Let's look at your numbers, your habits, your hidden resistance, and make a bold, beautiful plan that gets your cash flowing and your confidence rising. And the link for that will also be in the show notes. And until next time, remember, as I always say, confidence and cash are the ultimate power duo. Go check in with your money, maybe even light a candle and make it sexy. And as always, have a fantastic and wealthy day. Till next time, bye.